So I was 17 years old, standing in a payphone in Anchorage, Alaska in the evening, in the wintertime. And I had some snacks. I had a little bit of change in my pocket. But I had no idea that the next 60 seconds or so was going to change the direction of my life. It was cold, it was Alaska, it was wintertime. Parking lot was glare ice, where I was standing was glare ice. I had some nicer clothes on, I had boots that were very slippery, and I remember kind of sliding around in front of the payphone, and I was getting ready to make a call. At that time, I was breathing the cold air, the smoke that you breathe when it's cold out. And I just remember that, my friend Todd and I wanted to go out and maybe go watch a movie, hang out, get something to eat, that sort of thing, get some snacks. And that's where I was, in front of a convenience store there at a payphone, making a call to Todd to see if he wanted any snacks while I was there at the payphone. And so it was a pretty typical, ordinary evening for a couple of young teenage boys from Wasilla in the mid-'80s. But everything changed suddenly inside that 60 seconds. As I sat there getting ready to make my call, I picked up the receiver to make that call. I got a tap on my shoulder suddenly. Startled me. I turned around, and a man lunged at me with a knife. A man I didn't know, never saw before. I quickly jumped out of the way as quickly as I could. But he kept coming after me. I turned around and threw a kick out to him. I threw a kick at him. A knife, I thought it maybe gotten out of his hands. It had, dislodged from his hands and maybe fallen on the ground, but it didn't. So I did the only thing I really knew how, and that was to try to wrestle him to the ground. I had wrestled in high school. I had a few wrestling skills, and I tried to put those to use to save my life, because my life was in danger from a stranger who I didn't know, which turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. He thought I was someone that owed him money. And of course, I was the wrong guy. I was a 17-year-old kid hanging out on a Friday or Saturday night. So I was the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time that night. So I dove in, made a wrestling move on that cold ice. I hit my knees really hard in the ice. I did what they call a double leg takedown, which was actually my best takedown. I took him down, but he still had the knife in his hand, and he was trying to cut me. And I was scared. So everything switched in a matter of seconds. Eventually, was able to get on top of him, kind of choke him out. I used a little bit of the karate that I had learned from the teacher that had been given Todd and I free lessons. So between the wrestling and the karate, I had enough skills at that time, at 17, to be able to subdue this guy who was probably in his mid to late 20s. I probably was 115 to 120 pounds, soaking wet. got the knife away, threw it on top of the roof of the convenience store. And I just sat there, holding him down for what seemed to be the longest period of time. I was very angry, very upset, scared initially because this guy tried to take my life. And I just held him down there. I didn't want to let him go, But that changed something in me. I mean, that whole experience shook me up. It rattled me at that time. It really rattled me. It was a physical shock, but it was also a deeper realization that this dream that Todd and I had about going to Japan effectively was over for me. It scared me that much. Todd had saved enough money at that point to go to Japan and live the dream that we had had, to go study karate and go over to Japan and live that whole Karate Kid dream that we had, that we were so inspired and motivated by and taken by. So our stories at this point in time split. Our stories split. Todd gets on a plane. He goes to Japan shortly after this incident. I get on a separate plane and I go to Arizona. So, we were two close friends that had this dream. We end up really effectively on the opposite sides of the earth at that point because of a random attack by a stranger at a payphone on a Saturday night in the cold winter of Alaska in 1986. Yeah. So Todd made it to Japan. I made it to Arizona. And what happened next, really, for both of us, really nobody could have predicted it. As a side note, my attacker was later arrested and faced charges for that offense. But I had left for Arizona. I never came back and was involved in the case or anything like that. But Todd was gone to Japan and I went to Arizona. And that was the end, really, of the dream for me at that point. So I'll be back next week with the next part of this series in this chapter of my life, my young life, going from being homeless, being essentially on my own, loitering around, eventually getting a car, a job, apartment at 17, finding a dream to go to, inspired by Karate Kid, the movie, wanting to go to Japan, having that dream pulled out from underneath me. That's how much it shook me up. Todd to Japan and me to Arizona. And that's where it ended up at that point. So come back next week again and see what happens next in this series. I so appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed or anything like that, you can do that. I'd really appreciate it if you do that. I really, again, appreciate you watching. I love you. God bless. We'll see you real soon.